Thank you all for being here. This is the Bilingual Poetry Workshop by No Divide Kansas City. You can turn on your cameras if you want the students to see you and to see who's watching them. That would be pretty cool, and that's very appreciated. If you don't, that's okay too. We're very happy that you're here, and we're very happy to share this journey with everybody who's here, especially because it's been 2 months of a lot of hard work. These people here bear me for 2 months, and my times where I forgot what to say in which language, which is the bilingual struggle. We tried to create a narrative, talked about our identities and how we can connect that to language, and how life changes when you learn a different language, when you learn from a different culture, when you learn from different people. So I am very, very excited to present to you some of their best work that they're going to read today. I'm really proud of how far you guys have come. I'm very happy for today. So, sin más que esperar, we're going to start our presentation. I had it right here. There you go. Our first performer is Oscar Trujillo. All of our performers are going to be reading in Spanglish. Most of the poems, some are in English, some are in Spanish, but we really tried to keep it very, diverse. Oscar, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I just very last minute, about 2 hours ago, decided to completely rework a poem, so no one has heard what I'm going to do, not even in class. But I decided it was the one that was the most bilingual and most directly addressing identity explicitly. So here goes. Be very gentle with me. It's very new. It's called Identity. Trauma es una parte fuerte de mi herencia, pero no es mi identidad. Me impulsa a evadir poder opresivo que se me ofrece sin remordimiento en esta vida americana. Dejo de tapar el daño hecho y vivido, el daño que fácilmente podría seguir haciendo por lo que este cuerpo y los sistemas me conceden sin pedirlo. Just like my identity, this poem isn't finished. It may never be finished. It's not fully formed, ripe, or ready for your consumption. In fact, it's a mess, with sections and versions of me strewn all about in some kind of sense I cannot make any sense of. Outside-in anthems and epithets keep on making their way into how I self-determine and how I reach out through titles and labels that seem to obscure as much as they reveal, taking me deeper in and out. Maricón. What's identity got to do with it anyways? Bitch. To do with these things I am and have been called. Spick. What's love got to do with it? Diva. What's love got to do with identity would be a better question. Gringo. Yes, I was inspired by Tina Turner. Should I keep trying to land on an identity that is clarifying and makes me palatable or offensive to the holder of its interpretation? Oof, that's a lot of filters to deal with. This process sometimes feels like erasure inside the search to be seen. Quiero que me vean. Really. Y ya sé que en el fondo, como quiera que se manifieste, el acto de localizar una identidad es buscar seguridad, buscar pertenecer, buscar amor y poder defenderse de las exclusiones y ofensas de la sociedad. Natural. Pero esa misma identidad no deja de cambiar. No se encuentra en un lugar fijo sin peligro y sin rechazo. Eso jamás se logrará. La identidad evoluciona constantemente. Identidad constricts. You expand. Identity expands. And you constrict. Tanto como el planeta o las ideas. Yo. I want to live beyond this evolving self-definition. Not possible. Pero ¿para qué ser una cosa cuando se puede vivir más allá de esa ilusión? Possible. En esa totalidad íntegra, lo que sigue es el amor. El amor manifiesto en cómo escucho, en cómo comparto el momento contigo o con quien quiera que sea. en cómo esta memoria de cómo he sido me permite seguir buscando refugio y sintiendo el amor. Seguiré canalizando sabiduría esencial más allá de la identidad y transmitiéndola en una ofrenda de unión. Brindo comunión cotidiana como un acto de rebeldía, de identidad expansiva para no tener que desempeñar el papel que estos sistemas imponen y este cuerpo me concede. Maricón, bitch, spec, diva, gringo, oski. What's love got to do with identity? Y ya.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Oscar. Un besote. You are beyond talented. Thank you so much. He has to be gone really fast in a second. We're gonna go on. And so if you want to ask Oscar any questions after this whole thing is done, you can like DM him. Our next performer is Julian Cesar Torres. So I want to see those hands.
Gracias, Waleska. So I've been working on this for a little bit. I finished it probably like an hour and a half ago. But yeah, so I'm excited. And yeah, I'm also excited to hear everyone that comes after me. So thank you for listening to me. It's called A Través de la Botella. Producto del capitalismo transfronterizo, costumbres indígenas e imperialismo español. The bottom of a bottle, emptied by avoidance's overindulgence, mira dentro de mí. Masking even the need to mask the pain, I explore my cultural roots al fondo de la botella. Encontré que las raíces no eran profundas, sino they were rhizomatic. Adapted to protect myself, sharp spines and teeth shield a quiote at the heart of something organic yet more than its biology. Algo de la tierra y el cielo, something mundane and sacred. Enlightenment distills myth, yielding blazing water, burning lands, temples, and souls while replacing the elixir of the gods with spirits and the blood of Christ. Más allá de la identidad, I find myself in una constelación of non-being. No soy de aquí ni de allí. Mientras desenterados and borderless concepts of culture define me. Me contradigo? Muy bien entonces, I contradict myself. Soy grande, contengo multitudes. The constellation of trans-border capitalism, indigenous custom, and Spanish imperialism. Como el abismo, la botella devuelve la mirada de un general romano que devora la nobleza griega, mixing the religious and the sovereign into something para atenuar a la gente. I am but of the masses, biding time, doling senses, tomando aguardiente extinguished through standards and acuerdos por debajo de la mesa. Yo soy mezcal, agave, hijo de Quijote y la iglesia, un ser de la tierra y los viajes sobre ella. Yo soy Julián. I am Julian. Gracias.
That was so powerful. Ah, okay. Ooh, I have a lot of questions for you guys. Okay, cool. Our next performer, because the past two performers, I gotta say, live in Kansas City, but we got, a lot of diversity, and that's why I love this group so much. Everybody here is coming from a different background, and a lot of them from different countries. So we have our next performer is Valeria Raceta, straight up from Buenos Aires.
Hello, thank you. Well, the poem I'm going to express is was right because I feel that in the society, when you're different, you sometimes feel bad about it. So that's why my poem is called Condenado. Condenado por ser diferente, lucha todos los días. Rabia, anger, rechazo, anger, enojo. Emotions we were taught to feel. Condemned for speaking up, for saying the truth that comes from el impulso y la autenticidad. He fights. Sin respaldo alguno, he fights en contra de lo que no lo acepta. In the underground shadows he becomes aquello contra lo que lucha. Condenado por las voces de su mente que reflejan a sus seres amados, envenenan su aura de dudas, le dejan los ojos vendados. Condemned for years of fighting, wakes up on the ground looking down. Doesn't want to see the sun. What is this all about? Revuelto desde el fondo, there is empty space. It pulls hard, it feels unsafe. Sin respaldo alguno, he fights, tanto que se ha ahogado. Ha dejado la mente a cuestas, tanto que está condenado. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was so cool, Valeria. I'm so proud of you. You did great. I love you so much. All right. Our next performer is the sweetest Frank. Frank, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I just say sweeted. Oh my God, you're the
You're
only
the
one.
sweetest.
You're the only one that you think I'm sweeted. Okay. I'm gonna read this one because it's short, and the other one is only 2, and the name is Battle. And this is it. This battle, sin sentido, sin sosiego. This battle against a fear, against something that really drive me down. This battle que me lleva a confesar my sins, my thoughts, my weakness. This battle sin sentido. This battle is only my sin. And I have many doubts. And I hate myself because I'm weak. I'm weak because I wish you. I want you. I'm weak because I'm here in front of you, saying with my eyes that I desire you. This battle, a puro galope, a puro pelo, and this horse without anything, without any reasons, empuñando la espada de la ira, la espada de la voz. I'm trying to kill myself. I'm trying to shut me down. But this battle es contra mi cuerpo, contra tu cuerpo. This battle is nothing. I belong to me, I belong to you. Just do it. Don't be scared. You wish me to. This battle, I'm here in front of you with my open eyes, with my open mouth, and my open arms. Take me, I'm yours. You know I'm yours all the time. Why you doubt? This battle contra este cuerpo desnudo, que se hace trémulo, que me decapita, que me deja sucumbir ante la voz, ante tus sentidos. This battle contra un cuerpo desnudo, traslúcido, un cuerpo traslúcido como cristal. Te toco, me tocas, me envuelves, te envuelvo. I'm here, I'm yours, all the time I'll be yours. Don't be afraid. Touch me, kiss me, or even lick me, whatever you want to do. This battle es tan tuya como mía. Es una batalla sin razón, pero una razón que me contiene, que me deja ser, que me deja evoluir, que me deja volar, que me deja sentir que aún vivo. This battle is not only a little battle, it's a big battle.
Thank you so much. You have another one?
Yes.
Right? Okay, go ahead.
This one is the magic key. Llevas tanto tiempo en este cajón, llevas tanto tiempo sin hacer uso de tus dones. You here, waiting for someone, waiting for something. Llevas tanto tiempo en el polvo, llena de rumbre. Why are you waiting? Are you afraid to use all your power? Are you afraid to find your mission, your vocation? Are you afraid to see the light? Are you afraid to play it with everything that you can open? Open doors, closing doors. Estás aquí, marginada, conformada con lo que han dado, con las migajas y los sobrantes. You know, I'm the magic key. I have the power to open everything that I want. I have the power to close everything that I want. I always be your magic key. And here, use me. I'm not simple magic. I'm magnificent.
Thank you so much, Frank. You are the sweetest. You've always been sweet to me, which is hilarious that people are like, no, Frank's not nice. He's been nice to me always. Let me tell you that much. Thank you, Frank, for sharing with us. Amazing. Our next performer, straight up from St. Louis, Missouri, Joey.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yeah, hello everyone. So my name is Joey. In any case, let's see here. So I got a couple of different poems. One is in English, one is in Spanish. And
We love that. Go ahead, Joey.
okay, there we go. All right. So okay. The joy of the past has left me a willow in winter. My leaves are my memories, day by day, slowly losing their color and vitality until I can no longer hold on to them. They fall one by one, leaving me naked and cold. While I long for the warmth that I once enjoyed, I find myself rooted in place. Consigned to immobility, I accept my dormancy and patiently await the renewal that only time and the light of others may bring. So that's the first one. So this one is kind of all in Spanish here. So let's see. Go. Vanidosos sueños se derriten como el plástico barato en el sol del verano. Cuando miras atrás en un cojín incómodo de una silla en la sala de espera del hospital. Las joyas manchadas de sangre se echan sin vida en una bolsa de evidencia. Representaciones de promesas que se hicieron y se rompieron. Recuerdos que se crearon y empañaron. Los caminos que se cortaron salieron a la luz, mientras las heridas del cuerpo y mente están desnudas por ojos con lágrimas por contemplar. That's number 2, so thank you. And then this one is very new. This one is kind of one that kind of materialized this morning. So thanks, Frank, appreciate it. Okay, so it's very, very new. All right. Okay. I am attempting to cross the pomerium of my life. The pomerium was a boundary of ancient Rome. Within this border, generals and governors in the Republic became private citizens, stripped of their imperium or their ability to command. The idea was that within the pomerium, there would be safety and order, and outside of it, there would be freedom. Estoy intentando que cruzar el pomerium de mi vida. I have no army to command, no territory to conquer, or a mandate from the Senate. My mandate in this life is to explore every corner, to experiment all that is the world, and to live a transcendent life. Para conocer cada rincón, para experimentar todo lo que es el mundo y para vivir una vida trascendente. To understand its joys and its tragedies, the grayness untampered, and to listen and see. Para escuchar y ver. This mandate cannot be achieved from within the pomerium. It cannot be achieved by a comfortable recluse. It is necessary to leave the pomerium and seek novelty, surpass comfort, and embrace my fears. But in spite of all the adversity, I know that I have places to go, mistakes to make, and stories to tell, a life to live, and wisdom to gain unbound by a past I can't forget. Thank you, everyone. Those are my poems.
Thanks, Joey, so much for sharing with us. We're so lucky. Thank you so much. So the process that we went through during this whole workshop for a lot of us was a lot, because it's a really hard question to ask yourself, who am I? And also, how can I write a poem about who I am? I don't think we have the answer, but I'm pretty sure you guys are very close. So to continue on this, we have some poets that are currently in Mexico. So our next poet is Rosy Velázquez from Mexico. Go, Rosy. I say Rosy.
Hi. Okay. Hi, everyone. I finished this poem last night, and it's very, very personal. And it is about how I feel with my identity. And I'll throw this course. Sorry if it's too long and I tire you, but I start. Take a leap of faith, overnight success. I am from where no one's know. When a snail is in danger, it hides in the shell. I wish it was that easy to get away from here, jumping out the window in the summer breeze. I wish I have a dream. My arms became wings. Rain of feathers is gathering through the air. Glider of the soul, let me head so high. Is spilling into a moonlight. The light has filled my eyes with rice. My bones have been rising in the twilight ocean. Life is an experimental game. Let me ride far away. I hear my rainy song in the mermaid's mouth. It covers me and embraces my velvet rivers. A language is a repertory of endless songs, colors, tastes, smell, textures. It's a bunch of constellations. The tongue is the instrument with which we were born. The tongue can emit melodies, touch hearts, produce orgasms. The lack of tongue can invent bombs, raise walls, broke families, silent victims. Shut up, calla, silence. I wish I had a dream. I have a plane without fuel. I am on paper flight. I wish I have a dream. The lines of earth mix up like the waves of the sea. So when I land there, it's like here, and here like there. Home feels like casa, and casa like home. I wish I have a dream. I dreamed that I was mute. I had no sense of belonging to anywhere, to anyone. I live without time waits like the time of the world. Learning a language is putting yourself in another skin. It's like discovering the world for the first time. 2. When a snail is endangered, it hides in his shell. My poor broken English, she said, the words will make us free. But it crashed in my mouth with my teeth. The words me hacen bolas en my neck. My mouth fills with blood. It splashes on me. My tongue rolls up and tastes like meat. Meat is a word. Word is a meat. Forgive us, Father. No saben lo que dicen. Even if you have nothing to lose, you have a heart. The world is the meat of the soul. The world is in the meat or in the soul. How do we know where what they say comes from? Where are we talking from? I think that words are born from the eyes. We want to name everything we see, and when we don't, we dream it. Have you ever dreamed of something you haven't seen? Chimera, what a strange word. Chimera, that word was invented to give a name to everything that's indefinable with words. The language of childhood is imagination. Now, I don't feel the usual butterflies in my stomach every time. Instead, I feel a bunch of wind tearing my guts out and breaking my bones. Beautiful Babylonian word. Blood of deity victims, because words are time. Hablamos porque somos mortales. I don't have time for this. I drown in blood of constrained words, of unspoken words that die in my mouth. My induce multiple abortions, premature ideas that are annihilated. I've been a murderer all this time, killing dreams, breaking hopes, ideas that won't become dogs, caterpillars won't become butterflies, light that won't become a star. I apologize with these audiences for hearing nothing. Try to ensemble his poem. Surf through this smallest night. An idea behind to be born, and I blow up the bubble. I bathe with mud and rose petals. If Virginia Woolf had a hard time fishing tugs, I have a hard time fishing syllables. Simbre, non simbre. I only catch dupes, destructive tugs. Somos el naufragio de nuestra vida, Del Toro said, because I am Mexican and there is nothing I can do. 4. The language of childhood is imagination. I still being a kid with a cotton candy in my hair. I'm still hidden, convict, savage, and ignorant. Playing pumpkin seed in the desert. I always think of 7 impossibilities before starting the day. No feeling is final. I comfort myself. No final is final. My love is in the sea and in the field of dreams. I don't want to carry the weight of war in my shoulders. I am just a kid. I am gonna play. Can live without tenderness. It will be like suicide. No feeling is final. I repeat, melancholic is a very beautiful condition. Civil rivers shower my soul. I bathe in the moon. Hot rocks are rainy and they sing a song of praise. When a snail is in danger, it hides in the shell. A raven stole my eye, the ice boy, the ice girl. There are the soul doors. They are, I think they are a fake, a joke. Although I shade my eyes with a mask, they are still there. They are it. The eyes are soul eaters. You see your reflection, your liquid spheres with weaker spears and black hole in the middle. Blessed sacrament and biblical angels looks like. What do you think the Illuminati are? Now I see what the raven sees. Through the hollow of my face, the light enters. A place inside of me is a place in this heart. A language is a national anthem. But the ice girl, the ice boy, they are a mirage, an illusion. Poor little young girl, lost in herself. El mundo está despierto, but I am broke. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosy. Te amo, mujer. Something else that I wanted to talk about was that, yes, these people come from different places, but also they have different backgrounds. Not everybody here does the same thing. I don't think anybody is like, comes from the same experiences. And I always tell everybody here that it doesn't matter if you live the same thing as somebody else, the experience is always going to be different for you. And that's something that we took in consideration a lot while we were writing. And for a lot of them, this was a first time, a first chance on poetry, a first chance on expressing yourself in this way. Our next performer is Alex Aro, also from Mexico.
Okay, it's going to be very hard following that. So, okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Waleska and No Divide Kansas City. It was a great opportunity, at least for me, because as Waleska said, it was my first time doing poetry. So, okay, here goes nothing. La calma. En medio de la agonía, time stops sus movimientos. El soldado whispers in the wind. Hay golpes en la vida tan fuertes, yo no sé. Un hilillo de sangre le corre por el cuerpo. The smallest thread off of them all. Comienza en el hueco que dejó la bala en el pecho. Con el ojo derecho quebrado, contempla el pelotón de fusilamiento, mientras sus piernas tambalean a causa del miedo. He listens, de cuando en cuando, un extraño rumor por encima del viento. De carroñeras that follow him since he was born. El soldado se desmaya when he listens a una susurrarle, nevermore. The air around him freezes, as his nose perceives death and all diseases. El hospital is just the gibbet with a mask. Mientras espera que la bala nunca se dispare, el soldado termina por quebrarse. Tan solo hay golpes en la vida tan fuertes, y yo lo sé. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. You're amazing. This happened in every class. No joke. Every class. I just talked and talked, and they were like, I was saying thank you, Alex, so much for sharing and for trying, because a lot of times in life, all it takes is to try. And I always tell my students, if you want to be a writer, all you have to do is write and read. You have to read a lot. So at the end, we're going to have a space when you can ask all our performers any questions that you have. I know I'm going to ask them a lot of questions, so stay around to hear about their experiences. And our next and last performer is Majo Aguilera. I don't know how to say that. I never know how to say that. Warsaw? Is that how you say that? Yeah, that's where she's at. And also, she stayed up until like 2 a.m. in the morning because our time zones, were very different because she's like on the other side of the world, and she stayed up and really took her time to be here. And I appreciate you for that so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I loved it. It was worth it, every minute. Okay, I'm gonna share with you guys like basically a story in 5 poems. And it's something really personal, but I really love you guys, so it's okay. Autorretrato. Safety. Un zorro rojo visita de vez en cuando el jardín de mi suegro. Ayer pude verlo, laying en la hierba, playing like a little child. The moment was ephemeral. Bastó un crujido entre las rosas para emprender la huida. Remember now, be here now, as it's not like it was before. I hear George Harrison singing. But I'm too scared of what could happen. How do you convince a fox that it is safe to stay in a garden full of roses and there's no beasts behind the bushes or a gun hiding in the grass? It is too scared of what could happen. We all stare in silence. I'm too healed to look fragile, but I'm too fragile to feel safe. Remembrance and mourning. When I was 8, my papa told me that no matter how much I study, I'll never be better than him. He's the man who beat me and my brother and turned our childhood into an awful rotten wound. When I was 10, mi papá got mad because my hermanito was crying. Y los hombres no lloran. Pasar tanto tiempo contigo y tu mamá le hace daño, he said. He dressed my brother with my clothes and put a pink bow in his tiny head and took him to the street to show him how humiliating it is to be a woman. He's the man who refers to me with masculine pronouns and hates that I'm a woman and denies that I'm a woman, because then I'm weak and stupid, because then I'm easy and vulnerable. When I was 11, my papa asked me if I was being a whore at school, because my teacher told me to help my classmates, and they would knock at my door, asking about exams and homework. He's the man who made me promise that I wouldn't get pregnant or I would ruin his life. He's the man who told me that sex is dangerous because men will laugh at me. Men will tell everyone my flaws. Men will celebrate that they owned me. He's a man who never let me have male friends so I'd be safe, but still couldn't save me from being abused. When I was 13, mi papá told me to not do cosas buenas que parezcan malas, ni malas que parezcan buenas, and made me feel paranoid about every word I say and every move I make, and now I stare with fear and analyze people's behavior to make sure they're not trying to hurt me. He's the same man who cheated and turned his back to his own family, the man who would punish me with not going to school because he knew I loved reading and being away from home. When I was 15, mi papá found out I had a boyfriend who called me mi amor. And instead of getting worried about the scars on my wrists and 10 kilos underweight, he complained about me being easy, like all women. He said, easy. He's the man who told me que me partiría la madre if he ever heard a man talking about me, even if the rumor was a lie. He's the man who made me want to cut my breasts and genitals and hips in tiny little pieces and hide them from the world so I can stop being looked as vulnerable and dumb and easy. When I was 23, my papa called me a failure and a waste of time and a waste of effort because I married someone who truly loves me and sees in me freedom and treasures my feelings and defends my art. They never called me, and I didn't mind. It's not a lie that for all these years, for all my life, I've been shaped by the fears and traumas of my dad and his parents and their parents and others who also suffered from ego and resentment. Remember now, be here now, as it's not like it was before. I hear George Harrison singing, but my body still feels scared, even when there's no reason. 3. Recognition. What does it mean and how does it feel to be high functioning, My psychologist told me I'm anorexic, but thankfully I'm high functioning. Anorexic but functional means starving yourself for days, but doing enough somehow to make your heart keep beating, even when your mind gets blurry, even when you faint in the shower, even when the thought of food makes you feel sick and weary and worried. My psychologist told me I'm autistic, but thankfully I'm high functioning. Autistic but functional means I won't have it as bad as my aunts. They don't talk, they just stare. They were taught that there's no space in the world for them, and if they say something inappropriate, people laugh at them. My grandmother turned them into servants and beats them if she wants to. My aunts are women in their 40s who were denied a life and decent treatment. My grandmother denies they're human beings. Autistic but functional means no one will believe you, not even with diagnosis in your hand, because you're not white or a doctor or a man, the only reference people have. And if grades are good, that's all that really matters. Just forget about it. Never mind the panic attacks and the urge to take your eyes out and the overwhelming sounds. Never mind the pain in stomach and heart or the feel of insects in your hands and the tension in your muscles that makes you scared to talk and ruins everything that you're good at. It hurts to sing, to dance, and laugh. Yes, I am too healed to look fragile, but I'm still too fragile to feel safe. Recognition. There's infinite light in my mother's arms, sweetness and compassion in her eye. Mystic, the magic in her words is able to give life and create new paths. I recognize myself in her, and I pray that one day I'll achieve her ability to reborn from the past and grow stronger and wise. I'm also Agustin, my mom's dad, a man from the countryside whom until his 30s couldn't read or write, a man who never beat his children because he knew how it felt to be hurt by La Cuarta by his dad. There's a spark of innocence in his old eyes. I am Magdalena, my mom's mother, whose love is infinite and bright, and I'm the safety of my lover's arms and the silence of my aunts. And in every living creature, I recognize my heart. I am the softness in my dog's paws. I am a child caressed by their mom, and a nostalgic human group buried in ice. And I'm also the sadness of my dad. But I choose to heal, and if I do that, I'll have healed a tiny bit of everybody's lives. I am Jose, my abuelo, who never met his family and lived in constant poverty, who barely eats and is always lonely, and spent all his time in El Jardín, lost in his thoughts, rarely a word from his mouth, a skinny figure blurred in a tobacco cloud, whom chose to be a tailor in a town of men who chose violence, in the middle of a poor pueblo, in Uruapan, Michoacán, so thin and fragile, my granddad, with the brownest skin and unexplainable blue eyes. Before I left my country, he told me that if I had wings, I had to fly, so I did fly. Embrace. Al anochecer despierto y agito la sala. Con mi boca ilumino el cielo. Mido las estrellas y exploro los astros, dibujo las copas de los árboles y disperso las semillas. Mi vocación cianómetro. Recorro el espacio con mi voz. Mi cuerpo, monstruosa marioneta, suspendido por dos vocales cuerdas. Ecolocalización. Arrojo al mundo mis palabras. Ellas regresan y saben a néctar, frutas e insectos. Construyo nidos con canciones. Veo ondulaciones y escucho los objetos. Bombeo el aire y exploto en sonidos perfectos. Petirrojo melancólico. Aún con mi gorjeo apesadumbrado, opacado por los grillos y las hojas, canto. Mi vocación de insignatus monstruosus, canto. Para no morirme, canto.
Thank you so much. Yes, Frank. Thank you. Wow, I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate the people that are here as well, because it's a lot. Poetry, you know, this type of things. I always say that it's a safe space, but it's also a brave space. I actually, don't quote me because I didn't invent that. I think that was Melissa who said that first. Because it takes a lot to listen to other people's stories and to stay there for them when they are opening their heart to you, especially when it's a different language. If I had a power, it would 100% be to speak any language that I could, so I could understand everybody's poetry if you ask me. So thank you all of you for staying here and for reading your poetry. So now we are going to have a little discussion. If you guys are up to it, how are we feeling? Are we doing good? Are we less nervous now? Yes? Cool. I love that. All right. So I don't know if anybody has questions, especially because I know that a lot of parts were like, you know, and the languages is sometimes hard to listen to both of them at the same time. Yes, Frank.
Majo, no es una pregunta, es un... I don't know what to say. You see my eyes and almost crying. Porque tocaste allá, ahí, puff, ahí. Thank you.
I know. Her poem,
Thank you.
when I read it a million times. It was thank you. So yes, I have questions for you guys. If our audience doesn't have questions, I actually have a lot of questions because Stacy.
Thank you all so much for sharing all of your stories and poems. That was so moving. I guess the first thing that I thought to ask was, how do you, when you make the decision to say something in a specific language, parts in a language and others in a different language, what goes into making that decision? Is that a feeling, or is that kind of natural, or how do you make those decisions?
This is for you guys.
Stacy, it's a feeling, because sometimes, in my case, I'm talking about mine, when I write in something in Spanish, for me, it's more powerful. And then I switch to English because I think that English have a specific words for describe many things. Sometimes Spanish don't have that kind of a specific word that meaning something, but yeah, I use the English, but it's like a feeling. It's like, okay, I want to say this in Spanish because it's come from powerful.
Julie?
I also agree with Frank that it's a lot of it's just like feeling at the time. So English is my like stronger language, and so my poem, like a lot of it was like first written in English, but then in reading through, I'd be like, this phrase or this line should be in Spanish. But then also some lines like kind of came to me in Spanish, but then I ended up converting them into English too, just so like I don't know, it's kind of like a little bit of like just letting like words come to you in whatever language, but then also like taking the executive choice to switch language too. So like a mixture of both.
Yeah, that was literally what we struggled with the most, and we have that question all the time. I don't think, like, you know, there's like a steady answer for that. Like, it really depends on like who you are, where you're coming from, which language you learn first. There's a lot of that, right? Anybody has an intake on that? Anybody else?
Well,
Okay.
I think also when you can, when you are bilingual and you have, you know, both languages, it's easier also to play with sounds. So that help you. Maybe you can write in Spanish because it's your native language, but also when you are reading and you want to change to some words to English, you can also play with sounds. So that's also a part of the reason.
Yes. Thank you. Other questions? No? Okay. So I have questions. Julian Cesar Torres. Can you talk about because the part where you say mi nombre es Julian, that was new. That was completely new, and that was great. I loved it because I read all of your poems a million times, and I love what you guys did at the end because it surprised me as well. So can you talk a little more about why the name adding, and like how does that relate to what you were trying to transmit?
Yes. So so my poem was like it was about me and my identity, but also like about agave and mezcal. And so there is a line, let me look at it exactly. Un general romano que devora la nobleza griega. So my name is Julian Cesar, which comes from Julius Caesar, the Roman general. And then the word agave was, so indigenous people called the plant maguey. And then, well, that's the Spanish word for what the indigenous people called it in their indigenous languages. But so also like you'll sometimes see maguey on like tequila or mezcal bottles instead of agave. But then the word agave comes from, through Spanish, but comes from the Greek for high nobility or noble born. And so when I am drinking mezcal or something like that, I am a Roman general consuming Greek nobility.
You also chose the background. Very accurate.
Yes.
Love it. Cool. Now, I have specific questions for all of you, but I don't know if we have like enough time for that. So I'm just gonna ask some of them. So Majo, yes, your poem was probably, I don't know if it was the longest one or was Rosie's, but I wanted to talk about the figure of the fox that you use, and like why that, like what does that have to do with what you were working on?
I mean, I think mainly the reason why I chose it is I never thought really about foxes, because I think at least in my city, I mean in Toluca where I was born, it's not like a common animal. But the whole reason why I wrote this in half, like in English, in like in Spanglish, and the whole the poem starts with my current life. That is like a new life that is not like related to my roots, because I'm married, like my husband is from Ireland, and their foxes are extremely common. So it was something really new for me to see them, like it's a real thing, like the fox literally goes to their garden all the time. And to me, it was really beautiful to see that they behave a little bit like cats, in the sense that you can catch them enjoying the grass or whatever, but as soon as they hear something, they will run away because they're meant to think about survival. So I think it was these two things, that like the mood of being in survival mode all the time, like that is what I'm feeling. And also specifically the fox, because it's like something about my current life. That's what I.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Rosie, so I'm glad you're back. I really want to know about your mask. Please.
¿Por qué la traigo? Ok, tengo una razón práctica, que es porque tengo vendada la nariz. Y la segunda razón es porque parte del poema del final habla un poco de que aunque blindara los ojos, aunque pusiera una máscara, que siguen siendo pues como unos asesinos y devoradores del alma. Entonces, siento que tengo como ese dilema con los ojos.
You want to translate for English audience?
Okay.
La audiencia.
Okay. I have a mask in my face for two reasons. The practical is because I am advantage in my noise. And the second reason is because I want to make a performance with my poem. When I talk about the eyes, I want to say the eyes are evil, the eyes are malignant, and if although you shall your eyes with a mask or something like that, the eyes stay here and are fake, are joke, and everything.
Thank you, Doris. I keep trying to say Rosie because I know a baby that's named Rosie whose birthday is today, and like that's been in my head a lot. Valeria, can you tell us about the title of your poem and how that was important for the rest of it? Because you said something very, very small at the beginning, but I want to hear more about that because we not always have the luck to talk to authors. Not always.
Yes.
Very valuable.
Well, yes. Well, when we wrote this poem, we were talking about the biggest crisis that we have in our life so far. So I was thinking about that, and it's not only for me. I think I knew people that it's happened the same thing, that it's difficult to be in a society when you are different in some point. So sometimes you fight and you want to express and you want to be yourself, but you feel condemned because sometimes you don't see the things that are changing. So that's the reason of this poem, that we fight every day and we try to express ourselves and be ourselves and be happy, but sometimes you cannot feel that in the society. So you feel condemned.
Thank you so much. Now, Joey, can I ask you a little about your experience being someone who learned Spanish because you wanted to? Like, you just straight up went, I want to learn Spanish on my own. Can you tell us about that the way that you see Spanish and how you used it to create?
Can you repeat the question one more time just to make sure?
Yeah, just your experience with learning Spanish and how you like your perspective on that and how you use that to create.
Yeah, no, it's definitely I really struggled with this to kind of use Spanglish because yeah, I mean, I'm a Jewish gringo. Like I got no Latino blood in me whatsoever. You know, this is totally, I didn't kind of learn the language out of a necessity, or, you know, I could have gone my whole life without really learning it, but I kind of wanted to really step outside of kind of that that perspective and try to push myself to learn something new for travel and for everything. And so it was very hard for me to like use Spanish and not have it sound corny or out of place, or like I was encroaching on a culture that doesn't belong to me. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say as far as how I went about using that to create. I think for me, it's very interesting because as time went on, thoughts were coming out of both languages. And so to kind of combine those into something. And yeah, I think I still don't have a great answer for the question from earlier of when to use Spanglish versus when not to use Spanglish, but this has been a really incredible experience, and I'm very thankful to have been a part of it.
Thank you.
And Frank, I'll play for you. I can play whenever you want me to play. So you say the word.
And I have all your names here. Because Alex, his power's out. He's got no electricity, so that's why he's not here. He texted me. He was having issues. He don't know if he's gonna be here. Frank, can you talk to us about? Just talk to me about your poems, please, because I don't want to ask anything that you don't want to talk about. So I just really want you to talk about like your experience with the poetry and how you started writing and how you got to the poems that you presented today.
Well, I started writing a long time ago because I used to have a diary, a journal, and in this journal I always write everything that I feel, everything that the way I feel, and sometimes when I have any problem or whatever with my family or something with myself, and that's the reason I enjoy writing poetry. Poetry is give it freedom to your soul, and sometimes give you the power to say and confront something that you're dealing with. And on my poem, which one do you want? The battle, the magic key?
I want you to talk about the key, and I want you to talk about the horse, but I don't know if you want to talk about those things. So if you want, I know everybody would love to hear it.
Well, the horse, because that reminds me my grandfather. My grandfather, when I was a child, he's a man from the countryside. He has a little farm, and he gave me a horse, like a gift. And that's the first time I started riding a horse. And I ride a horse without nothing. It's just my skin and the skin of the horse, riding them. And believe me, it was wonderful. That's the way you feel, you are riding a horse and feeling the air and the grass on the ground, and that's something magic. That's really magic. And the magic key is it's about the power you have yourself. Sometimes you close, sometimes you open opportunities, but all the time you have the power. So the power is yours.
The key. Oh, sorry. Rosie has a question.
Yes, for Frank. Frank, do you like Leonora Carrington?
Yes.
Your poetry, remind me to Leonora Carrington for the horses and for the a story tale called The Trumpet Magic. It's more like the key, magic key.
Yes.
What about the key, Frank? Tell us about the key.
You mean the key?
No. You don't have to. I just really like.
I'm just kidding. No, really, the key. I remember when we're talking about the key. That's the beginning of the key is when you stay. Normally, when you are teenagers, everybody happen for this age. Some teenagers are really quiet and shy, and others are really, explosive. I used to be the explosive one, and always fight for everything, because I went to the Catholic Church, and one of my fight all the times was the religious classes. And the way the priest talking about the sinners and everything, I always have this confrontation. And now I'm quiet and sweet, like Waleska said. But in the past, I was really, really a mess. I'll fight for everything. That's the key.
The key is that you fight for everything.
Yeah.
You're lying. All right. Anybody has any other questions? No? All right. If nobody has any other questions, I think that was the end of our event. I am super, super happy and proud of you because you all surprised me today, even though I read all of your poems a million times again. This was incredible, and I am so proud of you. I don't know if Stacey or Emily want to say anything before we finish.
Emily,
Well, I just wanted to say, Waleska, you did an incredible job with this class, and I think all of you did an amazing job sharing your poetry. But, you know, this was just kind of an idea Waleska had, and I think it went really well. And so, I mean, we had
When's the next
people
one?
from all over the world. So,
when
congrats and
I have
congrats
the
to all
same.
of
I have
you.
the same question. We're gonna be the second part of our
Oh,
workshop.
yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
they
hear you.
actually were like, "Are we going to meet like in a month?" And I was like, "We can talk about that."
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible. Let's, you know, if y'all are interested in a part 2, let's talk about it.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it.
Yeah, if there's a part 2, well, we
Maybe
definitely
Waleska can write some poetry for part 2.
I wrote poetry. I just
Yes.
really wanted you guys to shine. I have stuff. I just really wanted this to be your thing. This is not my day. This is for you. So yeah, hold that. It's so good. I've been reading like in open mics here the poetry that I write for you. You just didn't hear it.
No, I know, but saying you get to present next time too.
Okay, promise. Stacey, you were gonna say something.
Well, yes, first of all, thank you all so much. You are all part of the first class of bilingual poetry workshop taught by Waleska through No Divide KC. So you are all very, very special. And I think it went so beautifully. And Waleska, you did an incredible job. And I can tell already just in this class that it's such a safe space and such a creative space for everyone. And that is exactly what we hope to do with these types of things. So thank you all for bringing yourself and bringing your openness and your willingness